For those of you that don't know me, I'm already seeing someone with their hand up. That's awesome. Yes, we will be able to have your questions, and you're welcome to put them in the chat too. I am Maraya Brown. Okay, so I've been actually attending births for now 22 years, although I haven't actually attended a birth for about 3 years. So I'm a midwife, okay? I'm a midwife through and through. When I think about my childhood, I was the one staying up for all the puppies and the kittens to be born, okay? It makes me want to cry. Like, I have been a midwife probably from past lifetimes. And then you're like, well, wait a minute, we're talking about hormones, age 35 to 55. I'm still a midwife. And what I say is I hold the container and I midwife women through chapters of change. Okay. So in 2007, I finished my medical training. I'm getting a phone call. I finished my medical training. I went to Yale and I went to the nurse practitioner program and I became a certified nurse midwife. Okay. So since 2007, I've been running the women's health in lots of different settings, federally funded clinics, private practices. I've headed up some international health projects in Nicaragua and Haiti, and I've worked with midwives in West Africa. And then in 2014, I started my deep dive through the Institute of Functional Medicine, okay? And now I work all online, okay? I support thousands of women across multiple continents, and I get to midwife them through chapters of change, looking at a foundational approach, okay? So I will say upfront, if you're like, what's the supplement that's going to fix my thing? What's the medication that's going to fix my thing? I'm not opposed to supplements. I think personalized supplementation is phenomenal. I'm not opposed to medications. But if you're on meds that you don't want to be on, I got you. All right. If you want to be on something or go off of it, but also address the foundational cause rather than Band-Aid care of let's just make that symptom go away and that symptom go away, but instead go, why did the symptom show up in the first place? That's where I come in. And so my specialty is working with women with their energy, their hormones, and their libido. And that means nutritional shifts, supplemental shifts, mindset shift, acknowledging that energy is important. Past trauma makes a difference. Our relationship with our sexuality, our sensuality, our passion, our libido, it's all important, okay? And so that's a little bit about who I am. I'm also a wife and I'm a mom. I have 3 children, ages 10 and younger. They were all born at home. And I've attended births in hospitals, birthing centers, home, all the places, okay? And really, truly, I'm midwifing women through chapters of change. So I'm seeing in the chat one-on-one, I'm 61 and I'm taking estrogen, testosterone, T3 and T4. Lately, I had excess bleeding. Ooh, okay, good to know. That's great. I love that you're putting this in already. For all of you here, go ahead and start putting in the chat. Why are you here? What is it that you're really struggling with? What are you longing for? Because if you do have your workbook, my first question is, why is this important to me? Okay. What are you struggling with? Is it that you're noticing more pronounced irritability during your PMS time? Are you noticing changes in your bleeding? Okay. Are you noticing new feelings of exhaustion, either morning, afternoon, or evening? Is there changes in your sleep routine or pattern? Have you noticed changes in your libido? Are you putting on new weight that's like, what in the heck? I'm doing all the same stuff, but my body's not responding in the same way, or I'm specifically putting on weight around my abdomen. Are you struggling with any brain fog where words aren't coming as easily? Okay. Have you been diagnosed with a thyroid condition and you're like, I'm trying to take the steps, but it's not working. So I'd love to see in the chat what brought you here. And I'm already seeing, thanks, Sheila. Thanks for saying thanks to Ashley. That's awesome. And she put the link to the workbook. So put it in the chat. Why are you here? And if you're shy, you're welcome to just send it directly to me if you don't want to send it to everyone. But I really do want to know so I can make this a personalized experience for you. What is it specifically for you? I'm already seeing one woman. I'm not going to say her name because she sent it to me one-on-one. But she's on hormone replacement therapy. So first of all, I see that you're on estrogen and testosterone. For any of you who have stopped bleeding, so definition of menopause, you've gone 12 months without a menstrual bleed. Okay, welcome to menopause. Yes, you can have your hormones tested. You can test your LH and FSH, but really, It's once you've gone a full 12 months without a menstrual bleed. So for someone age 61, I'm assuming that you're into menopause. Average age is 51. If you are on estrogen and testosterone, you must also be on progesterone. Okay, we're going to talk a lot about this. We do not want estrogen that's called unopposed estrogen. Okay, if you're just simply loading your body with excess estrogen, it's got to be balanced with progesterone. Okay, so for those of you who are in that 35 to 55 age range and maybe your bleeding is irregular, maybe it's wonky, it's heavy, it's more crampy, it's haphazard. That is also where a lot of what we talk about is the relationship between estrogen and progesterone. It might be that your estrogen is too high. It might be that your progesterone is too low. It might simply be that the gap is too wide. And so for a woman who has a history of hypothyroidism, or maybe even you had your thyroid removed because you're on T3 and T4, and now she's having excess bleeding, let me just say this to you now. Anyone who's gone a full 12 months without a menstrual bleed, and then you bleed again, it's always a reason to go be seen. Okay. Yeah, it might be your thyroid. Yeah, it might be because you're on estrogen without balancing it out with progesterone. But if you bleed after menopause, you just need to go be seen. Okay. So that's my first answer. I'm not going to use her name because she sent it one-on-one. Okay. I'm seeing questions around irregular cycle, perimenopause. Yeah. So for those of you that are like, well, what's perimenopause? This is good. I think of two bookends. So you have puberty, when our menstrual cycle first starts. And if you can remember back, maybe you were between age 13 and 16 and the hormones were raging. Maybe you had some acne. Maybe your menstrual cycle would come and then it would skip a few months and you didn't know. And sometimes it was really crampy. Okay. That's one bookend. Perimenopause is the other bookend, okay? It's fascinating. They're very similar in regard to what is happening with your hormones, what is happening with your mood. And so often the menstrual cycles start becoming more irregular. And what women don't realize is it starts as early as age 35, even if you're not really having symptoms, okay? It is that first chapter of the other bookend, and it can be long and extended. So started as early as age 35 up until you officially enter menopause, which average age is 51. And so women, at first, it's kind of subtle, like more irritability, like irregular menstrual cycles. And so we can get into the why and also the what you can do to start addressing it. Because here's the thing. I love doing workshops like this specifically for that age range, because often the symptoms aren't really bad yet. Sometimes they are. But we not only get to create shift and change for what you're currently experiencing, but we also get to think about it from a preventive standpoint and make sure that your experience of menopause will be smooth, okay? Because let me tell you, on the other side, when women are really in the throes of menopause, and they're coming to me with vaginal dryness, no libido, no sleep, crazy hot flashes, mood swings all over the place, anxiety, depression, then they're really in the throes of it. And if we can instead really get to the foundational support of caring for our gut health and caring for our adrenal well-being and setting boundaries and saying no to the things that we need to say no to and saying yes to the things that we need to say yes to, then the last chapter of perimenopause and into menopause is a totally different experience. So yes, irregular cycles. I'm seeing exhaustion, libido sucks, most likely thyroid low. Yeah, so now two women have both mentioned thyroid. So what happens is when we continue to not listen in, we continue to burn the candle at both ends, go, 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 do all the things, serve all the people. Then our thyroid often will crash. Okay. Something that I want you to know is in the context of stress. So we think of, hopefully you know of cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone of stress. Okay. A wildebeest is coming. A lion is coming. Run fast, fight hard, freeze well. Right. So what's happening is right now, whether you realize it or not, if you're worried about finances, if the news is playing in the background, if there's concern of, am I going to lose a loved one? If you watch a scary movie, isn't it fascinating? We can watch a scary movie and our palms will sweat and our heart will race, but it's all in our mind. It's just imagination. But that is a cortisol spike. That is fight, flight, or freeze happening at kind of an unconscious level. For those of us that have a history of trauma, something I want you to know is trauma is just simply how you perceive it. 3 years ago, the town 5 miles from me completely burned down. And I had to drive through the flames to get to my children. It was a really hard day for me. And still to this day, I feel a little bit anxious if my family is separated or if my kids are away. I was at yoga this Monday with my husband, and there was this part of me that's like, I know I'm okay, but they're all at school. If something happens and they try to call, they don't have any way to reach us. Okay. Now, my experience of that day was very different than someone else who experienced the same exact day, but they experienced it through their own filter. Even my own husband, he's like, yeah, not a traumatic response. Or you're 5 years old and somebody throws dirt in your face on the playground. For one person, that plays out as like, I still remember that day. And it's created a pattern in your life that impacts how you be. And for another person, you don't even remember it. Okay. So trauma is however you received it and however you perceived it. And it is whatever it is for you. Okay. And what I want you to know is in this kind of stress response, it is impacted by how we've filtered traumatic experience from our whole lifetime. I actually think in past lifetimes as well. And so talking about thyroid, the reason I bring that up now is when you're under stress, there's 4 things that happen. Number 1 is your immune system shuts off. Number 2 is your hormone production shuts off. Number 3 is your gut and your digestion shuts off, and your brain clarity shuts off. Okay. Those 4 things are not important in the context of, I have a minute or 2 to survive. And so what happens over time when the immune system is like, okay, I'm running from the lion. As many of you have probably heard me say this, someone comes up and sneezes on me and they have COVID. It's like, oh crap. But the body says, I'm not going to deal with that right now because I'm in survival. And so over time, stress, over time, the immune system gets turned off and gets turned off and gets turned off. And so what I end up seeing on the other end is people come to me with autoimmune conditions and they come to me with their thyroid crashing. Okay. Hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, Graves, a little bit less commonly. Okay. Because of the way the whole body interacts. And so if you've been diagnosed with a thyroid condition and maybe you're taking care of the thyroid, maybe you're even on like a levothyroxine or some type of thyroid med, the thyroid doesn't exist in a silo. It's interacting with your adrenals and your gut and your brain and your immune system and your stress level and your insulin level. So your blood sugar management and your liver, it's all a big comprehensive team. Okay. So I'm seeing, and libido, we're going to do a deep dive as well as exhaustion. I'm going to hit that hard tomorrow. So I'm seeing brain fog, tired, increased weight around the stomach. Yeah. So the brain fog, it could be nutritional deficiency, which is often because we need to really go in and address your gut. People are like, well, I don't know if I have a gut thing. Well, often you don't necessarily have symptoms of a gut dysbiosis. It's not like, sure, if you have constipation or diarrhea or heartburn, that's very simple and tangible. But leaky gut or a gut dysbiosis, meaning some not so great bacteria are overgrown and some of the good bacteria aren't present, that can show up in all sorts of ways. It can show up in hormonal dysregulation or imbalances. It can show up in brain fog, exhaustion, not absorbing nutrients from the food that you're eating. And it becomes even more important during this specific age range, that 35 to 55 age range, because here's what I want you to know. As you progress and the ovaries start slowing down a little bit, okay, we stop ovulating as often. and the ovaries stop becoming the main source of our sex hormones, predominantly our estrogen and our progesterone, guess who takes over? Anybody want to put it in the chat? Guess who takes over? I'm seeing hair on my chin, yeah. Who takes over is the adrenals. The adrenals are the ones that take over the production. So the adrenals are also the source of producing our cortisol. The adrenals are the ones that are in charge of fight, flight, or freeze. And so if you have been high stress, go, 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 not listening in, then what happens for the women in this age range is the adrenals get the knock on the door and they're like, I got nothing for you. Okay, let me keep looking at the chat and I feel like I can talk and talk and talk. Okay. So, hello, PNG friend. Oh my gosh, Nicole, where are you? I didn't realize it was you. Oh, that is so fun. Oh my goodness. Hi. So, for those of you, I'm going to cry. My first job out of undergrad, I did my undergrad in marketing and I interned with Procter & Gamble. And my first job out of school was with P&G. And, the whole like business suits, stilettos, airplanes. And then I attended my first birth and left and did a 1-year around the world trip and became a midwife. And Nicole and I worked together. I think I haven't seen you probably since like 2003. Ah, that is so fun. I'm finding I'm more fiery prior to my period. Yes, this is a new and more pronounced symptom as I voyage through my 40s. I'm so glad you said this because I can relate too. And I'm sure many of you on here and many of you watching the recording can relate because there's a few things that are happening in this chapter of our life, that 35 to 55. I really see it as the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis and then becomes a butterfly. You know what happens when it's in the chrysalis? It becomes goo. Goo. And this is a chapter where we're in recalibration. Like, who do I want to be? We take an account of the life that we've lived, what goals have been accomplished, what haven't, what relationships are serving us, not serving us, what emotions have been expressed or suppressed. And the estrogen starts shifting away from estradiol and towards estrone. I'm not going to get into that, but the thing to know is estrone is the estrogen of menopause. It's a much more single-minded hormone, and it's a much more fierce hormone. We become more unapologetic. We simply become more fierce. And the good news is we start actually setting boundaries. Now, on top of that, because the hormones are shifting, that PMS week can often be more pronounced. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to preemptively help support the estrogen and progesterone level, as well as our adrenals, so that the pendulum doesn't swing so far and feelings are meant to be felt. I don't want to take away your fieriness. It serves us. It serves me. Listen, I'm a powerhouse mama out forging a big business, serving a lot of people around the world. My fieriness serves you. And it also serves my children. And when I get so crabby that I bite my husband's head off, then I go, oop, maybe I forgot to preemptively add in that extra magnesium, add in some extra CBD oil, do the things that are going to support my progesterone levels, such as wild yam cream, okay, such as some extra cinnamon and some extra ginger, just to go in there and really support that progesterone during that chapter of our menstrual cycle. And so I love that you bring that up because I do want to talk about rhythms. Okay, you're on progesterone. That's great to hear. I wanted to learn new ways of functionality. I'm 70 and have been in health advocacy for 40 years, own gyms and help women as well. Work with plant powdered organics lifestyle. I have a great naturopath. Looking forward to the learning. Awesome. I'm 42 years old and I've been going through what feels like a new adolescence. I'm tired, emotions fluctuate constantly, but tend to be more on the depressed side. My sexual desire continues to increase, but I often have pain when having sex. Okay. I started having yeast infections almost every month, 1 week before my period. When that happens, my vagina cracks despite not being dry. Also, I have PCOS and rheumatoid arthritis. I would like to not feel down all the time while being horny, but not being able to have intercourse. Thanks. Oh my gosh, there's so much about this. This is potent. So in this chapter of life, as the estrogen goes down, for those of you that haven't experienced it yet, let's nip it in the butt. But vaginal dryness is a thing. Okay. The vaginal tissue actually starts to shift. So if you think of like a new sponge, if you're going to get a new sponge to do the dishes and it's super supple and spongy and pliable, okay, that's the perineal area. That's the vaginal tissue in our 20s and 30s. Okay. As we progress through our 40s, it starts to become a little bit more thin. And as the estrogen goes down, it becomes more friable, becomes more dry, and sometimes painful. So if you're saying I'm having yeast infection every week, I'd be curious to say, all right, has it actually been tested? Have you had like an actual swab? Because often the symptoms of vaginal dryness can be very similar to the symptoms of yeast. And that's awesome that your sexual desire is strong. Few things to just say right away regarding vaginal dryness, even if it's just subtle right now. We obviously want to support your estrogen level. I'm not your provider and I don't know your specific scenario. So I don't want everyone to just go willy-nilly and grab stuff. But for some, doing supplemental DHEA and supplemental Pararia mirifica is going to really go in there and support that. Okay, the Pararia mirifica supports healthy estrogen levels, as well as a diet rich in phytoestrogens. And DHEA is a supplement you can get over the counter. Unless you're in Canada, it's a little bit more difficult, but I can figure it out for you. And it's an adrenal hormone it's actually a hormone precursor that turns into estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So for some of you, adding in some DHEA is going to help with stamina and immune health and libido and energy level and brain fog and immune health and all of that. And that doesn't mean that you just go add random stuff. Okay. For the women in my space, we look quantifiably and I get your Dutch test. Because in some scenarios, if your estrogen is already high, or the way that your body is detoxifying it is going down a pathway that predisposes you towards estrogen-dependent cancers and the not so great stuff, we don't want to just randomly add in things that are going to increase that estrogen. Okay, so I do need to say that out loud. Okay, I ended up in the hospital, increased bleeding. I'm on T3 and T4. Oh, sorry to hear that. And this is the same person that's one-on-one with me. So we can have a banter. I've had changes in my period. I had a baby at 39 and I'm now 40, almost 41. I had a baby at 42, not 42, 40 as well. And it comes more often throughout the month. I've also had much more mood swings throughout the month, sad and more edgy, and then other weeks totally feeling okay. Okay. So if you have a menstrual bleed, it tells us that you ovulated. How do we know if we ovulated? We have a menstrual bleed. If we have a menstrual bleed, it means we ovulated around 12 to 14 days earlier. Okay. If on the other hand, you're having lots of spotting and lots of kind of haphazard bleeding, then I go, okay, it's likely not actually ovulation. I have to go, okay, are you on any form of contraception, any form of hormonal contraception? That could be the cause. Are you still breastfeeding? That could be the cause. Are you under high levels of stress? That could be the cause. And it can also go back to hormonal foundation as well as thyroid. So there's lots of things to consider in that age range and with those symptoms. But here's the deal. It's all addressable. Like, I got you. It takes some time. And so when I went to Yale, it's like, well, you just put them on the pill. They're having irregular bleeding, just put them on a pill. Put the Band-Aid on. It's like, well, wait a minute. How about getting to, well, why is the irregular bleeding happening in the first place? And oh, by the way, if you want a great form of contraception, hormones can be great for that. And I did a great podcast interview with Dr. Sarah Hill, who's out of one of the universities in Texas. And they've been researching progestins, the synthetic progesterone that is in most contraception. And what they're finding is it actually sends the adrenals into hyperdrive. And for some reason, the body starts pumping out cortisol and it loses its negative feedback loop. So right now, your body produces cortisol. And then there will be a normal predisposition where the body will figure out a way to go, okay, enough. We're good. We're safe. For some reason, when women are on the progestin that comes in most pharmaceutical contraceptions and even hormone replacement therapy, for some reason that stops. So you just pump out cortisol. And so there's lots of different factors here. And if you're sexually active and you know you don't want to get pregnant, that's an important factor too. We just get to work around it. Okay. Or if you're on hormone replacement therapy, some scenarios I go, okay, can we do progesterone instead of progestin? Can we go to bioidentical hormones instead? Okay, Feather. I'm 44 and my last period was August of 2019. Welcome to menopause. I had surgery for endometriosis August 2018 and had 3 or so periods after surgery. I have zero sex drive, have a hard time going to sleep at night and feeling tired. Oh my gosh. I feel like I could keep going through all this chat, but I want to make sure I'm up to the workbook too. So thyroid, immune health, hormones, gut, brain, hair loss. Yeah. Hair on the chin. So much of this is so good. Who takes over production? The adrenals. Yeah. Looking for solutions to tired brain, find excessive weight gain. Okay, this is so awesome. And the comments just keep coming. So I want to make sure that I'm able to actually get into this, and I'll come back and we'll make sure that everybody has answers. So the next question on the workbook is what changes happen during perimenopause? I feel like we've covered that. And all of you are asking those questions. Yes, all of that, everything that I've seen here can be stopped when we get to the foundation and we actually address our hormonal well-being. And from a functional medicine perspective, how do we address our hormonal well-being? We look at our gut health. We look at our adrenal health. We look at our liver health. We look at our thyroid health. We look at how we're thinking, how we're being, how we're managing stress, how we're setting boundaries. Okay. It's all relevant and it's all important. And I can tell you, after doing this for a long time, women come alive in my space and then they go, oh my gosh, the symptoms are all gone. But not only that, now I have new hope for the future and I've taken on this new career and my relationship feels that much more rich. And I feel like the lights turned on. I didn't realize. I was walking through my day and the lights were dim. And now the lights have been turned on. Okay, so regarding blood sugar, I want to hit on that a little bit. So why do I bring up blood sugar management? Because it really is an important factor, okay? For those of you that have energy swings, mood swings, immune system stuff, hormonal stuff, we really need to keep our blood sugar stable throughout the day, okay? So I'm going to give you a few options on the workbook. You just get to write down 3 that are like, ooh, that feels like something I can do. Okay, so number 1 is quality protein, quality fat with every meal. Okay, most often you're just simply not getting enough protein. The nice thing about protein and fat is they get digested more slowly and they help maintain blood sugars over time. Okay, cravings are less an issue of willpower and more an issue of blood sugar maintenance. Okay. So if you're on your way to meet a friend for lunch and you forgot to eat breakfast, or you had a Starbucks and you had a muffin and you had some cereal. Okay. These are all really high sugar foods. Okay. You didn't have any produce. You didn't have any protein. You didn't have any fat. What's happened is your blood sugars are doing this, which sends your hormones like this, and your mood like this, and your cravings like this. And so then you're on your way and it's like, you're going to get the most spectacular salad bar with fresh salmon and it's going to be spectacular. And there on the seat, your passenger seat, is a box of cookies. And you're just like, I'm so hungry. I can't do it anymore. And you eat the whole box. And then you feel guilty. I didn't have the willpower. My friends, it's not an issue of willpower. It's the byproduct of your blood sugars. Okay, so anytime you sit down to eat, can you look at your plate? Are there at least 3 colors? And in my opinion, white and brown and yellow don't count unless it's like a bright yellow bell pepper. So we got to get in 3 colors. That means produce. Food coloring doesn't count either. So M&Ms don't count for that, okay? But you're getting 3 colors in, so you're getting produce. At least half your plate comes from the produce family. And then there's ample protein. That doesn't mean it always has to be meat-based protein. Broccoli is a great source of protein. Miso, tempeh, tofu, a non-dairy yogurt, nuts, sprouts. There's lots of different ways to get in protein, but we need quality protein and fat. And then no more skipping meals. Okay, intermittent fasting is a big thing right now. If you ask me specifically for this age range, the woman around age 35 to 55, I am not on the same page with intermittent fasting in the mornings. Okay. When we wake up, when I look at your 24-hour cortisol curve from the Dutch Plus test, I want to see your cortisol come up in the morning. Okay. You wake up, sunlight touches your eyes. Naturally, your melatonin gets turned off and your cortisol turns on. That prepares you for your day. Okay. So we get sunlight on our eyes, and then within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, you get in some protein and some fat. If you don't, the body will figure out how to get the cortisol, and it will generally eat away at your own muscle mass. It will catabolize your own body. Okay. So if you're going to do intermittent fasting, my preference is it's at night. So you finish your last caloric intake within 4 hours of going to bed, and then you stop eating. No more late night snacking. No more alcohol in the evening to wind down. And now your gut actually has time to rest and digest. You get to sleep because now blood flow is going to your brain rather than to your gut. You get to allow the insulin conversation that is around intermittent fasting to actually go to work. You get your 8 to 9 hours of sleep, and there we have it. But throughout the day, I don't want you ever going more than 4 hours without some quality produce, protein, and fiber and fat. Okay. So hydrating well is another factor here. Those of you in my space, you know, I'm a big fan of adaptogen elixirs. This morning I did a quick live drink. I'm making mine. So you've got your adaptogen source, you have your protein source, your fat source, your hot water, your nut milk to taste and sweetener. And there's all different adaptogens out there. You also hear this. For those of you that have ever seen this brand, I get so excited when I see this stuff. I'm like, this is an adaptogen elixir. They've got adaptogens. They have a protein source. They have a fat source. And I got a couple of them. Actually, my husband brought this home last night. There's all different versions, but this Rebel brand, this is awesome. It's cold. But if you're just looking for easy fixes, it's so fun for me because I've been talking about this for years and now I'm seeing it. You go to Whole Foods or Sprouts or natural food stores that's showing up. And for those of you that want, I have free adaptogen elixir recipes. Just ask Ashley, she can get them to you. And you can start making them at home. So now we can drink our protein. We can drink our fat source. You can add in some CBD oil, right? For those of you that maybe you saw, we're doing a giveaway. So Hemp Pure is giving away a bunch. It's like a $200 value. I love this brand because, first of all, it's one of my very best friends that started the company. But she sources the CBD from hemp that's organically grown out of Colorado. And CBD is so powerful because you're accessing your endocannabinoid system. It's going to support your hormonal levels. It's going to help your nervous system. Like if it's a tight coil, it just helps it unwind a bit. CBD has also been shown to go in there. And for some of you, when I look at your Dutch test and how your body's getting rid of hormones, I can see, there might be some genetic predisposition towards a not so great direction. And CBD is one of those things that can start shifting it. And I bring that up because it's a nice fat source. So I keep the peppermint one here and I just do a dropper under my tongue. Okay. I keep a jar of nuts down here at all times. So if I'm like, I've been on calls for too long. I know that I'm getting hungry. Okay. I'm going to have water. And I'm going to make sure that I have sources that are handy. Okay. If you work outside the home, make sure that you have sources that don't have to be refrigerated, like a plant-based protein powder, like a bag of nuts, even collagen powder. It's going to absorb as protein. Even spirulina powder is going to be a source of protein for your body. Okay. I mentioned the giveaway just to make sure everybody is clear with that. In the Facebook group, I posted it. The way it works is, you just make a post in Instagram and Facebook saying that you're excited about this workshop. You tag me, you tag Hemp Pure CBD, and you do your call with Ashley. and then you're entered to win. And it's a really nice giveaway. It's like a wide variety of all of their products, even their lube, which is a CBD lube. So that's fun. And it's always fun to give stuff away. And like I said, that's a $200 value just for doing the stuff that you're already doing. And you get the opportunity to pay it forward. Okay. What changes will I make regarding nutrition and supplementation? Okay. So I've talked about a lot of different things, and I want to say out loud, I see lots in the chat. I'm going to do my best to go through this afterwards because we have 15 minutes left and I can cover a lot in 15 minutes. But I want to remind you that Ashley, as your success advisor, is there when you're like, okay, Maraya said this XYZ thing. Can she elaborate on that? I have a question. Here's my specific scenario. Can she talk about that more? Ashley and I are in constant communication. She's there to make sure that she's giving you a personalized experience. And the calls with her are totally free. Okay. She's good at what she does. Like women say, oh my gosh, I felt so heard. I felt so seen. And so, Ashley, if you can put your link in the chat again, I really encourage you to book your call with her. Plus, then you get your pieces done to get the giveaway. And so just because there's so much that we can talk about. Okay, so from a nutritional and supplementation perspective, let's recap some of the things that I talked about. Okay, menstrual irregularity. We want to bring up our progesterone in that second half of the cycle. That would be same with mood. If you tend towards depression, kind of feeling like a flat affect, often you're needing a little bit of extra progesterone. So wild yam cream, sometimes chase tree berry, eating extra cinnamon and ginger, really caring for your adrenals. So what does that look like from a nutritional and supplemental standpoint? Obviously moving your body, but moving it not, so you're not pushing yourself too hard. Allowing time for breath, allowing boundary setting, adding in your adaptogens. For those of you that say, what's an adaptogen? Adaptogens come from the mushroom plant botanical kingdom, and they help the body better adapt to stress. Okay, so there's lots of them out there. Maybe you've heard of ashwagandha or chaga or reishi, green tea, dark chocolate, holy basil, shatavari. If you've never heard of any of those, it's all good. You'll get to learn in my space. But they help the body better adapt to stress, to feed the adrenals. Cordyceps is a great one for energy. For those of you that are needing caffeine in the morning, or you think you need it to have a bowel movement, it's not a real bowel movement. If you think you need it to have energy throughout the day, let me tell you, there's so many better options out there, because the caffeine is actually spinning your adrenals and tightening that nervous system. And instead, you can add in cordyceps as an adaptogen, and it's great for stamina. If you hydrate better, if you get more fresh air and you move your body, if you eat more greens. So when I talk about 3 colors every day, green is the most important. If you can do 3 colors every meal, the best. Okay. I'm seeing CBD 1 and 2 regulators light up all organs, and endocannabinoids, so important and amazing. Yes, yes. I'm seeing notes in there. What did you say it helps with? I don't know what the question was. Okay, this is a lot of information. I'm taking a breath. Everybody take a breath. I'm going to keep going. And this is a lot of information, okay? You get to filter it through and take away just a couple key takeaways. I want you to know that whatever you're experiencing, there are so many solutions out there. And even if you've seen naturopaths and acupuncturists and functional medicine providers, and you have a shelf of supplements and you're like, I still feel like crap, or this one symptom still won't go away, continue to advocate for yourself, okay? There are still so many solutions out there. And what I can tell you is women come into my space and they've had a Dutch test, they've had a GI map, they've been seen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I take a peek at it and I go, how did that provider miss this? So it's not just what tests are you having done, but how are those tests being interpreted and who are you seeing? Okay. We don't ask someone for directions to places that they haven't been. Okay. Keep in mind that Only 1/3 of physicians in the US graduate from med school having taken one nutrition class. So who are you asking directions to and what place? Okay. Can you see someone who, in my world, I like to see a woman as a provider because she's experienced it. That does not mean that it has to be your choice. I like to see someone where when I go to them, they lead with nutrition and mindset and lifestyle change. And then we can talk about medications. We can talk about supplementation. But if you think through, who is it that I'm seeing? Okay. And I really encourage you to spend some time after this to fill out the workbook and go, why is this important to me? I'm tired, but how is that impacting my life? Am I taking my child to the playground and sitting on the side, not actually engaging? At night, am I kind of vegging out with TV because I don't have the energy to engage? Do I have big goals in my life and I really want to do big things, but I simply am too tired to do it? Am I living off of too much caffeine? And I know that it's not serving me, but I feel like I need it to make it through my day. Okay. Why is this important to you? The brain fog, the menstrual irregularities. Is it impacting your travel? Is it impacting your sex life? Is it impacting your confidence? Do you allow yourself to go to places of, is something wrong with me? Do I have the big C? Like, allow yourself to really get quiet with, why do I want this to change? Because here's the deal. When we approach it from nutrition, supplementation, and lifestyle, it's not a quick fix. It's not just, here's an ibuprofen, the headache's gone in a half an hour. Here's an antibiotic, you're feeling better in 48 hours. That's not it in my world. When we're looking at foundationally addressing it, it's creating new lifestyles so that the symptoms go away, but the cause of the symptoms go away. And for you to maintain and have the trust and the patience, you have to be really clear on why. Not just what do I want to change, but why do I want this to change? How is it impacting me? How is it impacting my relationships? How is it impacting how I show up in the world? Because that will be the thing that will keep you taking the steps. And tomorrow, we'll do an even deeper dive into this. So tomorrow, I'll be on for a full 2 hours. We can cover whatever hasn't been covered today, as well as really getting into our passion and our energy. I want to this last question on the workbook around tests to ask for. I want to make sure that I bring up a few things. So number one, we talked about thyroid. Often women will come in and they're feeling sluggish. They're losing their hair. They have hot and cold intolerances, hands and cold and feet are cold, tend towards kind of feeling low energy or sad, not sleeping well, irregular cycles. And it's not all of this. Maybe it's a few. Constipation, your weight, all of a sudden you can't do the same things and maintain your weight. Okay. And in my mind, with all of that, strange rashes, rough patches on your skin, in my mind, I'm thinking thyroid. Okay. So what I was taught at Yale is you order what's called a TSH and a reflex T4. So it's very possible if you go and look at blood work that's been done in the last year, your provider's like, yeah, I tested your thyroid. It's fine. But really all they looked at was your TSH, which isn't actually a thyroid hormone. It's coming from your pituitary. And most labs will say normal is like 0.4 to 4.1, something like that. Super wide. I want to see your TSH between 1 and 2. So what happens is they've ordered your TSH and it's 4.0. And the upper end of normal is 4.1. And your provider's like, yeah, it's normal. So they don't ever even look at your actual thyroid hormone, which would be T4. And then something for you to know is the thyroid, which is right here in your throat, which is why you need to speak your voice, speak your truth, is pumping out T4. And then the body converts it to something called T3. And T3 is the actual usable form. Okay, so for me, if I want to see a comprehensive thyroid panel, I want to see your TSH, your free T4, T as in Tom, your free T3. I want to see your thyroid antibodies to see is there something going on with an autoimmune or immune system. And I want to see a reverse T3. And that's going to tell me, is there inflammation in the body that through the back door is impacting your thyroid? And so if you're having these symptoms and you've continued to advocate yourself and you've been told your thyroid is normal, it's very possible we just need to get different tests. Okay. For your hormones, I think the best test on the marketplace is the Dutch test. It's dried urine total comprehensive hormones. They send the kit to your home and you collect your urine and saliva, and we can look at your hormones. We can look at your adrenals. We can look at something called some of your organic acids, how your body is actually getting rid of the hormones. It tells a lot. And you can order the test yourself. You don't even need a provider. And you need someone who really knows the test in order to interpret it. Someone who really knows the test, has looked at many, many, many Dutch test results. And then the GI map would be the best test to look at your gut. So the GI map is going to look at your actual gut microbiome. And once again, that test, you've got to have someone who really knows it. In my world, I have a team of multidisciplinary coaches and master coaches. I still am not the expert on the GI map test. I have a dietitian that's part of the team, and she knows that test because there are so many little nuances and interconnected relationships with that test that I go, oop, we've got to make sure that the person who's interpreting it really knows that test. Okay. So in my space, I know a lot. And I've been doing this a long time. And I'm good at what I do. And I still bring in a multidisciplinary team to really support women that are hungry and they're ready to invest time, energy, and money. And you get to have the support in regard to me, as well as mindset and sexuality and trauma release and nutrition. Okay. So those are some of the tests to really make sure that you're asking for. I want to make sure I say out loud before we finish, there is a homework thread. So the question on here is, what is a big aha and shift you will commit to? I'd really like you to think through all the things that I've talked about today in regard to nutrition, how you're thinking, how you're advocating for yourself, maybe supplementation, and go, what's one thing? I'm going to shift my blood sugars. Okay. In regarding to sleep and thyroid and adrenal health, we talked about a few things. Okay. What tests to ask for? Okay. Am I overdoing it on caffeine? Am I overdoing it on alcohol? Am I snacking too much in the evening hours? Okay. And we'll get into this even more tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll be live from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And it's going to get juicy. Okay. Put your big girl panties on. It's a fun topic. And then on Friday, we'll have a VIP day with a live Q&A session. So whatever feels like, wait, I still have more questions. What about this? What did she say about that? Bring it to Ashley. Bring it to the Q&A day on Friday live. Okay. For those of you watching the recording, hello, hello. Nice to see you, kind of, sort of. Hopefully you can hop on live one of the other days. If not, make sure that you book your call with Ashley and she'll relay all those questions my way. Okay. I have 3 minutes left. So let me talk briefly about sleep. And the biggest thing I want you to know is, for those of you who are in this age range and all of a sudden your sleep is just really wonky, you can't go to sleep, you're waking between that 2 to 4 a.m. chapter where your body's exhausted, but your mind is buzzing. That time period, I think of adrenals. And I think of blood sugars the 24 hours leading up to. Okay. Also progesterone. Okay. So if that's you, try doing a different wind down routine. Can you limit your exposure to blue lights, meaning screens, within 2 hours of going to bed? Can you start actually unwinding your nervous system, slowing down your movements as you get ready for bed? Have you tried adding in extra magnesium or CBD before bed? Bringing in extra progesterone. For those of you that are on bioidentical progesterone, making sure you're doing that in the evening, or a little bit of wild yam cream. You just get a little like dime size, put it right here at the bend behind your elbow or the bend behind your knee at night before you go to bed. That can often do wonders just to help bring up that progesterone. Progesterone is the hormone that's a smooth muscle relaxant. It is calming. It's the hormone of pregnancy, right? When we think about pregnancy, we're juicy and we're creative, we're creating. I mentioned blood sugar management. So to make sure that you really take an account of, did I overdo it on caffeine? In my world, I want you to take caffeine completely out. Did I skip meals? Did I not eat enough produce? Did I forget my protein and fat? And what you'll find is when you're living off of more refined sugars and carbohydrates, they're not all bad. I'm not advocating for keto or paleo necessarily, but we have to make sure that we're balancing it out. Think about how different your body feels when you drink a glass of apple juice versus you eat an apple. When the apple is paired with the hydration and the fiber, it simply goes into the blood system very different and is more sustained energy. Okay. Sedatives. If you're using a medication to sleep, that's not really sleep. If you're using screens to go to sleep, it's hurting your sleep. Okay. So the things that do belong in the bedroom would be sex and sleep. Yes, my friends, an orgasm can help you sleep. It's a great way to connect. The things that don't belong in the bedroom are screens and sedatives. Alcohol is also a sedative. So for those of you that are using alcohol to wind down at night, it is a sedative. You might feel like you're sleeping like a log, but what research shows is you're not actually getting into deep sleep or REM sleep. So you're not actually getting the true rest and rejuvenation from that sleep. Instead, you're just a log. Same with things like Ambien. Okay. So, and the other thing to know about alcohol specifically is 1 glass of wine or its equivalent will spike your estrogen by as much as 30%. So for the women that are having the menstrual irregularities, the mood irregularities, the PMS. Okay, if you're using alcohol, which often it's ironic, women in this chapter will crave wine specifically. And I think it's because our bodies are feeling the drop in estrogen, so they're looking for a source. But there are much better ways to get estrogen in. Okay, we're at time. I'm seeing women. So now this same Zoom link we have I have a year-long program, and it's a group program, and we have a group call every week. And this group call today is being facilitated by one of the master coaches who's a sexologist. And I see her coming on. I see some of the course participants coming on. So we're going to pop off. We're going to stop this. Let's stop the recording. Let me stop the Facebook Live. And I'm excited to see everyone. So tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be on. I'll do a full 2 hours so we can really get into some of these questions. We'll make sure to save the chat so I can go back in. Like I said, I know I've stressed this, but really, truly have your call with Ashley. For those of you that are over in Instagram, if you're like, what is going on? Send me a DM. I'll get you the link. You can come in tomorrow here in Zoom and we'll actually give you personalized touch.